One thing I struggle with is answering the question, how long does your art take? Because I don't actually tend to keep track of it. And I've decided recently to start to track it and to share with you guys all of the little steps. Part of the reason why I thought to do this was because my friend and colleague, Dr. Amanda Grunwald, I almost called her Dr. Amanda Batts. We just wrote a grant to try to raise funding for me to go to Peru for the research we're doing next year. By the way, only patrons know that so far, so please don't share it. It's secret at the moment. We're going to be telling people once the foundation that has funded us announces it. Anyway, part of the grant was explaining my process. And Amanda was like, now describe your creative process. I'm like, oh, I read, I get the data, and then I draw. And she's like, that's not your process. What is your process? I'm like, oh. So she pushed me and challenged me to actually describe in detail my process, which is a lot. And so I thought I would practice describing my process by sharing it with you. I've also started tracking my time, so I have these spreadsheets. So far for this piece, I have put in 17 hours of research time, and that's not including when I first started researching flight dynamics. So that's just this time. And also there's the prep time, which I unfortunately wasn't recording the time for prepping these, but these are all copper and steel and bronze plates. This is a copper hemisphere here. And what I do is I first clean this, get all the oils off of it. I use denatured alcohol to clean it. I sand it, and then I clean it with denatured alcohol. I let that dry for a good long time. And then I put on, these three here all have a layer of black gesso. And then I put on oil paint. And I'm using liquid because it dries really fast, and you just use a small amount of paint so that it's really thin, so that it's not so hard for me to scratch through. And then I transfer the drawing. This here is a drawing of a yellow warbler. And you can see I think this is bronze. I don't know, brass. I don't remember. And this is a yellow warbler. The photo is by Glenn Neuer. He's an amazing photographer, and he has given me the permission to draw all of his birds, any of his birds, and you can see he's an amazing photographer, so I am thrilled. I expect to see lots of drawings from him. So I did this is actually just drawn by sight. Normally I do a grid, because I like things to be really, really precise. This isn't quite perfect, which is kind of bugging me, but it's pretty, and I'm just gonna draw it. Why do I have so many pieces right now? I should have started with this, but you all know I have several commissions that I'm working on. I'm also right now working on Mount St. Helens erupting, and I'm in the beginning stages of working on some fractal trees on copper as well. But these are not commissions. This is for a solo show I have at Blind Insect Gallery in June, which was set up last year, and I had struggled with producing art for my collectors and for new work while in school. As many of you know, I am quite behind on creating my commissions, and I'm catching up right now. I'm drawing a lot. But so I need to create work for a solo show that is, I'm bringing the work ready to hang by June 12th. Today is April 24th, I think. So I don't have much time. As you guys know, my work takes a long time. So I'm doing a series of small copper etchings. They're all going to go around the fractal tree. I'll show you photos and videos of that later. But it's the fractal tree copper engraving, which I got back from through an estate sale, and it was damaged. It was pretty heavily damaged, and so I've been repairing it, and I actually took the opportunity to sort of re-envision it. So I went back to it, and I think I've leveled it up. So I've added a whole new set of foliage. I've repainted it. It's got more depth. It's beautiful. Anyway, so that piece will be up, and these pieces. And the idea was, what's the theme? So I'll describe it now, and I super hope this is still recording. So this yellow warbler is drawn with this data. So 17 hours of research has boiled down to this short list of data. I just hope that it's focusing. Probably isn't. But it is data based on the morphology and flight, and then also feathers. And so this piece is going to talk about the morphology of the bird that enables it to have its sort of eco flight, so it's niche, which I think is really cool. So we're talking about the wing shape. This is an elliptical shape. We have the mass of the bird, the aspect ratio of the wings. Aspect ratio of the wings is consistent across the species, while the size of the specific bird can be different. And then you have the wing area, wing loading, which is the mass of the bird over its wing area. And it basically correlates to how fast a bird has to fly, how much energy it needs to put out in order to keep it aloft and carry its weight. And so smaller birds tend to have a smaller wing load, and the larger birds have a higher wing load, which is also why we see birds will fly faster when they are larger. So this is how they will retain their lift. So I have wingspan, wing area, aspect ratio, wing loading, wing pointedness, and then I have some data that I pulled from a paper that I'm a little bit nervous about because it's a graduate thesis paper, and I normally like to pull my data from papers that have been peer-reviewed quite a bit, and this one hasn't been. I talked to Amanda, who's kind of my mentor now, and she told me just to cite it as a thesis, and it's been peer-reviewed by the people who review, graduate thesis work. So it has been reviewed. I think one bit of data is wrong. Based on my calculations, it's different, but everything else seems above board. I have compared it to other data that's out there for other Parulidae, which is, what is that? Genus? I'm so bad at this. I always forget those, I have to look at it. Anyway, so this has to do with the velocity. So it's data on the velocity, acceleration, and power of this bird on takeoff. And so we have the velocity, average acceleration, power output during flight, mass specific power during takeoff, and I haven't had it yet, but I want to put wing beat frequency in there because wing beat frequency to mass and wingspan and wing area, they all correspond really closely. So that's what this guy's going to be drawn with. And then these here, my plan is to illustrate the feathers. And so, because they're beautiful. And so imagine a nice, beautiful, one of these is silver and one of them is copper. That one's silver. So this one will be the feather. It will not quite match that guy, I just realized, but hopefully that will be fine. Because this one is copper and this one is bronze. So we're gonna have a nice feather. I might have more than one, and it's gonna be drawn with, I don't have it written here, I realize, but measurements of the feathers. I have these really beautiful images. I might drop it in here for you, of these great photos that lay out all of the feathers of a yellow warbler, and you have measurements for them for all of the feathers. And then also I want to have the chemical formula for all trans lutein. I don't know how to pronounce it, lutein, but it is where you get the yellow coloring from. And then this one, my plan is to make it a moth, because this bird's name, I don't have it written down, in Latin, sethophage, setophagia, so it means moth eater, and that is their main source of this, is their main source of lutein for their color. And so it's this beautiful correlation. So you have the bird with flight mechanics and morphology, you have information on the feather and the color of the feather, and then where that color comes from. And then we have this piece here. This is a copper hemisphere that my friend Joe from Strange Blacksmith made for me. It's for me to test for my upcoming commission of the 18-inch hollow copper globe, which is an insane project I'm making for one of our dear patrons here. And I have a lot to learn on that, so this was for me to test it. And so to test it, I'm going to draw a part of the globe. And the concept is inspired by this image, which I'm hoping I'm showing you right now, which is the sea surface temperature and current of the globe. And the colors there match the temperatures. And I would draw with the corresponding temperature values for those regions. I think this image is absolutely gorgeous. I fell in love with it in marine biology class a couple of years ago, and have wanted to draw it ever since. And Greg has been kind enough to order it for me so I can make it. And then the question was, for this test, what part of the globe do you draw? Because every continent is associated with a culture and a people. And so it's really hard for me to choose what part of the globe to focus on. And I don't know about you, but I'm not super fond of North America right now. Anyway, so I was trying to figure out what part of the world to draw and why. I wanted it to be relevant. And then I realized this bird could tell me, and it ties it all together. And so this bird's range is from North America to Central South America, North and Central South America. And so I'm going to focus on that region here. And I might try to figure out a way to show its flight path. This image from Glenn Noyer was taken in Massachusetts, so it would be kind of cool to highlight that it was from Massachusetts. And so you'd have its migration range, its flight dynamics, information on its feather, its diet, and the last one is a tree. And I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do this, but when they're in North America, they tend to nest in cottonwoods, alder, and willows. And then when they are in winter in South America, they are usually in mangroves. So my plan is to draw a mangrove. I have a plan for it already. And this is for another patron, the copper tree. And my plan is to make 2 of them. I'm gonna do 2 different types of trees. I believe one will be a maple tree, fractal tree, just because it'd be really beautiful. And she says she loves maple trees. And then the other one would be the mangrove tree. And that one I'm thinking will actually have data that is about like photosynthesis and respiration. And the bottom of the mangrove is meant to look like the lungs. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Or I could do, instead of the maple tree, one of the North American trees, which would be really cool. Which would be a cottonwood. A willow tree would look really cool. And if we had a willow tree or something like that, it really shows why it's so important for this bird to have wings like this, because its size and shape of the wings allows it to maneuver really quickly and move around in tight spaces where there's a lot of little branches to move around. And you could really imagine that when looking at a willow, like a weeping willow tree. So I think it'd be great to just tie that all in together, because you don't ever have form without function. These birds evolved these shaped wings and this size of body and that bill and those flight dynamics and these behaviors to fit their ecological niche. So what they're eating, where they're living, their environment, and so that's what I'd like to do. And I had no idea that this was going to be my idea for this series, but it all came together, and I think it's really beautiful, and I wanted to share it with you. Now I have to draw it. So I've done almost all of the research. I'm actually gonna start scratching this today with this data. These guys need to dry a little bit longer before I can work on them. And then the goal is to finish etching them, capture them, spray them, so the cure's under a spray, frame them, which Elle will be doing, possibly with special lighting in it. We'll see if we can do it. And then bring it in and install it and create the descriptions for these, all in time for the show. June 12th is my deadline for having them ready to just give to Pepe of Blind Insect and have them hanging up. So that's my goal. I'm a crazy person. And now you have a little bit more of an idea about what goes into a piece and how I make them and how I choose my data and why. that's all. If you have any questions, let me know. You can comment below, and I'll answer them.